is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Anti-Gravity Group podcast. My name is Braden Carlson.
My name is Taylor.
And my name is Shane, or as you might know me, Postard.
Today we are talking about some of our favorite projects in high-power rocketry, but first I decided we're going to open this episode up with some emails we got. I kind of like doing this up front a little bit. It's going to make things a little convoluted because we have the mailbag section at the end, right? So I guess we'll just do like a viewer comments or response sort of thing at the beginning, and there's a little bit of rocketry news that I think we should discuss as well. But we'll dive into that after this. But our first email comes from Ol Zeke. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at contact@aggpodcast.com, or if you're listening on podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, whatever, there's a link in the description to send us a text message, so you can actually do that. So if you want to reach out to us, go for it. Ol Zeke says, hey guys, a couple of questions I was wondering about. What is the largest motor you've seen in a 3D printed plastic rocket? How big was the rocket also? Thanks for your knowledge. I don't know off the top of my head.
I've seen some J motors in 3-inch stuff, but
I think the biggest I've seen in person is probably like a J, a small J. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's about the limit of what I've seen in person.
I think that one guy, I can't think of his name. That one guy did his level 3 on it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did his level 3, like all certs on 3D printed stuff. And I know
I can't think of his name.
I believe Bryce, when he was at Embry Riddle, I think he said that they did a 3D printed fin can that was like Mach 2 plus or something like that. I could be completely misremembering that. So, Bryce, reach out to us at contact@aggpodcast.com to follow up on that. But it's interesting info to have. So, if you have personally flown a big motor in a 3D rocket or 3D printed rocket, let us know, and we'll talk about it next week on the podcast, unless we have a guest. But I figured we could kind of throw this like some industry news and some chats we're having with people. This one could get very long-winded. Up front is the way I should have finished that sentence. Garrett Ernst reaches out and says, my name is Garrett Ernst, and I live in Central Michigan. I'm a recent born-again rocketeer. The first rocket I put together in my early teens was an Estes Groove Tube. Oh, nice.
Whoa.
Groovy. Says, I've really gotten back into the hobby. Apogee Zephyr, Wildman 3 and Shapeshifter, several scratch build. I have a third bay in my garage. I would like to tailor a workshop specifically for rocket building. I'm curious, what would be your setup design must-haves if you were to set up your own dream workshop?
Didn't we do this podcast?
yeah,
We didn't do workshops specifically. That kind of just was what my dream project was.
Oh, we
And
talked
then-
about doing a dream workshop podcast.
Yeah, but I could see how you might not find that. After all, as you pointed out, Taylor, there's like 35 hours of us rambling, so we'll just run it back a little bit here. I think we got to be somewhat reasonable here, though. Yeah, I mean, obvious ones are like a pretty good sized workbench, and maybe a drill press is big up there
Yeah.
for me lately. I'm loving the drill press.
Yeah, I mean, to put simply, a big A workbench down the whole side, maybe, and or actually, I'm sort of leaning more toward for rocket work the workbench on casters that you can roll around.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the play, and then maybe a stationary workbench that has like you could have like a small benchtop drill press, a vise, all that type of thing, and then your standard hand tools. The drum
Maybe a
sander.
miter saw if you're getting into like cutting big tubes and stuff, but
Yeah.
we've all discussed ways that we cut tubes without needing that. The freestanding belt sander, big advocate lately.
Now, the first thing you need for sure is the CNC table. I mean, how
Yeah.
can you even build a rocket without that?
Yeah, you can't. Exactly. But actually, I was going to say that if it's within your budget, absolutely look into CNC stuff.
Or like a small laser cutter, like a benchtop one. So you can
Yeah, but
cut
there's
things
benchtop
out.
CNCs, and the
Yeah,
benchtop, like
true.
a CNC is, can be anything. A CNC
Yeah.
router, I guess we should specify.
Yeah.
They can cut through thicker wood for like a similar price point. Trust me, I've gone up and down this road a couple times, like really, really wanting
Me and
a CNC
we saw
investment.
the compact one at Rockler here.
Rockler, dude, there's one in
Yeah.
San Diego. We drove by it, and I was like, "Oh, I want to
yeah.
go in." It's so cool in there, and they have a West Marine in San Diego too. Pretty sick
That's
rocket
sick.
place down there. But yeah, so basically anything you'd find in a woodworking shop, other than like hyper specific stuff like a planer and stuff like that, is about the best we can recommend. A shop vac, definitely get a shop vac. It's a good one to have. But I think that pretty much, I don't know. We could go on, like I said, for hours and hours about idealizing our dream rocket building shop.
Yeah.
But,
And we just might in the future, but
yeah, that's actually, maybe we should like try and establish a budget of some sort, and then we should each tackle how we would set up a shop for like,
or we could do
like
$1,000
of imaginary money.
Or we could do like a budget and then and unlimited.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Dude, it would get so dumb though. Like, all right, I got the Haas 6-axis CNC lathe so that I can make nozzles. It'd be so absurd. All right, well, thank you guys for reaching out. Again, if you want to have your questions answered up front of the episode now, you can contact us via contact@aggpodcast.com or send us a text message by clicking the link in the description of your chosen podcasting platform. The one last thing I wanted to touch on real quick is I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name. He's from France, the guy who owns Silicdyne. He announced yesterday the prototyping and pre-production of the world's smallest GPS tracker for high-power rockets. Did you see this, Taylor?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it is tiny. Like,
Yeah.
it uses what appears to be the same battery you use for like Easy Mini or featherweight GPS, and the transmitter is like half the size of the battery. It is so tiny. Yeah, it's like he has it put next to a €2 coin. I wanted to call it a toonie, but that's Canada.
Yeah.
And it's so tiny, and it has Android and iPhone compatible app for the ground station. So, dude, this could be high on the list of things that I'm gonna need real quick. It's called the Reaperix. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, so if you happen to hear this and you're looking for some beta testers, we can fly year round out here far and Lucerne, and we can go to Tripoli, Central California, whatever you want. We would love to give them a shot. So anyway, I just thought I'd check that out because I know a lot of people are always asking for recommendations, tracking, and stuff like that. So it looks like there's going to be a new player on the block here pretty soon. But the big addition is compared to the Fluctus, of course, being that there's going to be an app that's compatible. I like to assume that this means that soon the Fluctus GPS setup will also have an app that's compatible with its ground station. That would be phenomenal. Also, it has an 80-kilometer operating altitude, which is pretty good. I mean, way good. I think the Fluctus is a lot lower than that. Didn't we talk about this? It's like 60,000 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
I think so.
80 kilometers is like, what, 250,000? Somebody's going to fact check that, but it's not going to be me. Anyway, we're going to move on. We talked about in an episode once some of our favorite upscale and scale projects. And I'm sure there will be a little bit of crossover here. But there's a lot of projects that just beyond being a scale or upscale or something really cool in terms of a real rocket or an already existing design. There's just a lot of crazy cool stuff that has happened. So we each are going to toss out some of our favorite rocket projects through history, and then we're going to turn to patreon.com/rocketvlogs where you can participate in the podcast discussion for free. Do you like my radio voice there for a second? That's patreon.com/rocketvlogs. Remember, podcast discussions are free for everyone. All you have to do is sign up. Patreon.com/ROCKETVLOGS. That's patreon.com/rocketvlogs. I think there's going to be a lot of crossover between all of us and our favorite projects. And because he is going to have the least, I think we should let Postard go first.
First thing, I know we talked about it after we did the Upscale podcast, realizing that we forgot about it. So I wanted to throw it on here.
I started with that one too. And I wasn't going to say anything about us missing it in the Upscale episode. I would have maybe forefronted that differently and been like, oh yeah, it was too cool to just discuss. But when Clifton hears this, that's on you, not us.
What is it?
That's fair.
The 12-inch corkscrew.
Oh.
Which is just sick. I mean, yes, it is an upscale of an Estes rocket, but it's a 12-inch with a 6-inch mount. He just flew it for the final time at Mini Midwest Power. For certain reasons, he didn't fly it at Midwest Power when we were there, which was pretty much the only reason that I went. I mean, not really. It's just a fun launch and it's a fun event in general, but really big deciding factor for that very expensive plane ticket purchase to go to Midwest Power. So I'm not bitter about it all the way. Taylor, you go ahead and throw one out.
I mean, I feel obligated to throw out really all of the Gates Brothers rockets, but Porthos in particular. Just so sick for the time, and even still today. I mean, a 12-inch diameter, 16-foot rocket with 7 motors. I mean, we clearly weren't influenced at all.
I was gonna say that's a crazy concept that nobody would ever dare try to execute in this day and age. But yeah, I mean, the simple fact is, without Porthos, there's no 12-inch Punisher. There's probably no anti-gravity group. You know, so I almost was like, we can't throw Gates Brothers stuff in there because it's so obvious, right? But I felt it had to be left alone. So yeah, Porthos. If you don't know like about the Gates Brothers stuff, you can actually use the Wayback Machine, web.archive.org, and just type in GB Rocketry. Is it .org or .com?
.com.
No, type in gbrocketry.com in the web archive and just go on an adventure.
And see
crazy.
Some of the clearest photos of any rocket launches from 2001 and 2002.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, it's crazy. Like, the only person that really was on that level otherwise was Vern. I mean, that in terms of just, like, doing it for the sake of putting it on your website and stuff is crazy. Mine, I would be remiss not to put it out there. This is not an upscale or scratch build rocket. It is a scratch build rocket. It's not an upscale or scale rocket. The 20-inch diameter Jurassic Kick built by Poison drummer Ricky Rocket and crew. And he built a 20-inch diameter rocket from Drum Workshop kick drum shells and flew it on a Kazan 10,000 in like 1996, 94, something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I had that one on my list as well.
Yeah, it's so hard to avoid. Like, you can't.
It really is.
You can't miss it. But yeah, that thing is crazy. And one of our favorite things is there's somebody's uploaded the video. I don't know if it was Earl Cagle or if it was Kai Michelson or who was there for the launch video, but like, was it at Lucerne or Delamar?
I think it was Delamar is what we decided.
But it was the Cosdo 1000 in the description. It was crazy. It seemed like it was just a private launch, like they just flew that. And there's like people walking around talking about grilling salmon and stuff out there. They made a whole event out of it, which is sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're all hoping one day that Ricky Rocket comes back and flies some rockets with us.
Yeah.
Honorable mention to his giant Big Bertha. I think it was either 6 or 7.5 inch Big Bertha that he built from PML parts. So cool.
Wasn't aware of that.
Well, we lost Taylor to some technical difficulties, but fortunately it's Postart's turn again. So we're just going to keep this rolling. And hopefully he gets back in here because he's going to have a lot more exciting projects to discuss than we will because he's seen it all.
Yeah. The next one I've got is the classic, and I think one of the big reasons I love it is because of its flight, but the huge full-scale V2 that flew at Thunder Down Under.
Yep.
I don't even know when that was.
It was in Australia. Taylor's back, ladies and gentlemen. He's returned to us.
There's some internet issues, but I just kicked my girlfriend off of the Netflix, so.
Oh, man. Phenomenal. Well, it seems like it hasn't helped even slightly, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Postart just launched into his second choice, which was the world's largest rocket, the V2 that they flew in Australia.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before too. I think just on the live stream after the podcast.
Yeah.
One of the best parts about it, and like we understand the undertaking and how crazy it is, but the rocket's flight profile is hilarious. And the top comment on the video is, "I think I could have thrown it higher." And like I said, no, not to discredit the folks in Australia that built and successfully recovered a full-scale V2 that is seriously overwhelming to think about. But yeah, it went like 150 feet or something like that. So it was is kind of ridiculous to watch.
Yeah.
But we don't have a full-scale V2, so we can't say ass about it. All right, Taylor. Well, since you're back, why don't you fire one off?
I think it was Terry Drake with the 7.5 inch bow mark at LDRS 26.
Oh yeah,
absolutely sick. I got to see that in person. Lucky enough. I remember just being blown away as a. Is it
Terry or Perry?
I thought it was Terry.
I'm not sure. Because Perry Drake is a Tripoli Vegas guy, and he's the one I got all my like 38 millimeter hardware from.
I think this guy's from Oklahoma. I'm not sure,
but yeah,
I think
he built with the outboard motors.
Yeah, so it was 2 L1420s on the ground, and then 2 K550s that air started in the pods. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that is insane, dude.
God. It's exactly what how I would have wanted it, though. Not that I'm going to build a 7.5 inch bow mark.
Are you going to build any size bow mark?
Yeah.
That's what he says, folks.
It requires shaping balsa, though, and reading instructions, so we're just going to keep putting it off for the time being.
You're a Finnish carpenter. Yeah. That's what you do is shape wood, basically.
Okay. I don't want to hear it.
Fine, I'll just move on to my next one. This one's interesting. It's sort of a deep cut. It was built by a guy, I believe it's pronounced Greiger, Rob Greiger. His level 3 rocket called Spike. It is just this like total goober. I don't know if it's 7.5 inch diameter, but it's super short and it has either 5 or 7 fins.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's sick. And he used like an ARRD for dual deploy out one.
The AARP.
Yeah, the AARP.
Yep.
But yeah, it's super cool. I don't remember what motor it flew on. It was like a M1419 or something, first level 3. There's a video on YouTube. I think the channel's
I
called
think it's
Firehouse Productions.
yeah, M1850 maybe.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. But it's just super cool. I was like, that's kind of the perfect size and like setup of a rocket. I love a easily transportable. I know you wouldn't believe that, but just because of who's saying it. But I do love a nice, easily transportable, giant, thick rocket that doesn't go that high on M motors because it's just, it's easy. And I'm like, oh, I want to build something just like that. And then I remember the 8-inch V2 that's just sitting in Taylor's possession. That is kind of exactly that. But there's always room for more rockets. Not here, but we
Is
could
there?
find. But yeah, so shout out Rob Greger. I don't know if that dude's still around or what happened to that rocket, but that thing is awesome. And the timing, once again, for Taylor to disappear is
Yeah.
great because it's Postart's turn.
He just doesn't want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, he hates you, dude.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
This is going to be so fun to edit when there's 35 tracks of him coming in and out on Riverside.
Yeah, yeah. Um, all right. Well, the last one that I have on my list, give a shout out to our friend Joe Barnard of BPS
Yeah.
Space for his hot glue rocket.
Oh, man. He's going to be like, of all the things that I've done, that's what you picked.
Yup, it is.
Well, you know what they say. Glock it.
Yup.
Dude, that thing was, yeah, I mean, the amount of time and actual
Yeah.
engineering that went into making this meme come to
Yeah.
life.
The way he molded the fins was insane.
I know we talked about it on the episode, or one of the episodes we had Joe on, but because of that rocket, people have been like, you should build a rocket like entirely out of JB Weld. And see, this is where the line in the sand gets drawn between myself and Joe. Is that sounds hard and I don't want to try. He's like, that sounds hard, but I can make it happen. And I'm just like, nah, I can't. I'm good.
I think you could.
I probably could. One like compromise I thought was like maybe rolling tubes with thinned JB Weld as the laminating epoxy.
Oh, God.
It would just be like this disgusting, dull gray fiberglass
Yeah.
tube. But yeah, he talked about just like making compression molds and like making the actual tube out of JB Weld.
Yeah.
That sounds chaotic to me. And I have quite a few other rockets that need to be situated first. So maybe that's a hard maybe on the JB Weld rocket for like 2026. We'll see. Let's kick it over to Taylor. He's back.
I don't know what you guys said while I was gone, but I'm gonna go with the which we probably discussed in our other podcast. I don't remember, but Vern Hoag's Saturn V with 4 in 5800s at Airfest. Did you guys bring that up?
That was super hard. No, we didn't talk about
We
that.
did not.
That was my first Airfest.
Dude, the Airfest went so hard. We could just name the projects from that Airfest and like
It would be a good list.
Because there was also at that same launch, there was also the other Saturn 1B.
Steve Eves.
Yeah, but what did it fly on? I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but his was 2-stage. It just didn't light because it tumbled.
Yeah,
And
I think maybe it was a low key cluster. I don't know.
I don't know either, but there was also the giant Redstone and the giant upscale Fliskits Drake.
Legendary.
Chris Short flew no motor. Clifton, I believe, tried to fly the 12-inch corkscrew there, and that was when it blew the nozzle. But yeah, that was a crazy, crazy launch.
Ooh, I got another one too, but I guess I'll wait my turn.
All right, save it. I'm gonna go Jerry O'Sullivan's Iris, his 2/3 scale
Yeah,
Iris, especially in
Oh,
boosted format, was so
dude.
unbelievably sick, and the
The
whole
nine
reason
I
that I built,
540s.
yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy. 9 motor cluster staging to like 4.5 inch O's and ends, and that rocket is the reason I built my 7.5 inch Iris when I was like 17. Yeah, Jerry just did like some crazy stuff, and unfortunately that rocket met its end at Cato. He sent me a picture of it when I was like, hey, look, I built this Iris because of yours. He's like, wow, I wish I still had mine. And there was just like a piece of giant red fin all over the place in the pictures. I was like, awesome. So unfortunate. Postart doesn't have any more as far as I know, unless you thought of one.
Yeah. I'm working on it, but I haven't yet.
All right, Taylor.
Okay, I got
Rev her
one.
up.
Once again, look up, or maybe I didn't mention, but most of these projects you can look up on Rockets Magazine YouTube channel. A lot of them have been documented over the years, but I'm gonna go with Arizona Rocketry Gila Monster,
Oh,
legendary,
yeah.
16 inches in diameter,
Yep.
like 20 feet tall,
And it's flown a million times,
like 15 times, and it
which
has
is insane for a rocket that big.
does it have a 6 inch in the middle, or is it a 98?
I think it's a 6 inch.
I think it's a six
I think-
inch with 675s around it.
Yeah,
Or
I
no,
think it's had a couple
four
different
seven-
iterations.
five-
But yeah,
I don't know,
that
but
thing,
it can hold quite a few motors.
yeah, the thing is nuts. And haven't they put like kegs in it and stuff, or they did almost every time?
Yeah.
They had Gila Monster beer in it one time, didn't they? It was like branded that way.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but right at the end of BSD Rocketry, they released a 3-inch Gila Monster kit, and I wanted it so bad.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's so cool. Imagine building a big rocket that's like so special that somebody makes a kit of it.
I know. Like that, yeah, so iconic.
So I've actually reached the end of mine. I couldn't think of stuff, and it's going to suck because after we record this episode, I'm going to be like, oh, why didn't I say this, or this? So we'll probably have to revisit this topic at some point, or maybe some Patreon people will have some info in there. But
what about the Mega Wildman and Mega Darkstar builds?
Unbelievable for cutting me off because my last one was the Mega Darkstar.
Oh. You said you didn't have any
I was
more.
thinking about.
I said I have one more, and then I was trying to set it all up. Oh my god, dude!
Oh, I was reading your mind.
Unbelievable.
Well, you want to do your lead in now? You want to do it backwards?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, the build of the Darkstar was just like a crazy thing in its own right because they did it like 2 weeks before it flew on a 6-inch CTI motor, and the K2045s around it, launching it like 10 feet into the air. Not 10, but it was like 40, and then the O came up to pressure.
Like 10 feet off the rail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just like asking for problems, and it just worked anyway. It was so sick.
Man, it was so close though.
Yeah. Crazy Jim said they like just built it like a normal Darkstar, like injected fillets and just did all the normal things. It's like 27 feet tall, 12-inch diameter, weighed like 500 pounds, didn't it?
Yeah, all glass, yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the 2-stage attempt at LDRS 38 with the O to P. They flew it on the P 2 or 3 times. Was it 2? I know they did it at Thunderstruck once.
I think so.
And then they did it at LDRS after the O motor KO'd.
They might have. One of those might have been in 08000. I don't know.
Dude, that motor's insane. But yeah, So the Mega Dark Star, last on my list, but certainly not last. You know what I'm trying to say there. Least but not last. Yep, that's the word I'm going for, the
Mhm.
phrase I'm going for. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Unless Taylor, do you have a couple more?
I mean, this group of guys built a 12-inch upscale of a Wildman Punisher, and it is so sick.
No, those guys suck, dude.
Uh,
Uh,
the main guy though, Rocket, he's really full of himself.
yeah, I really like the Jesse guy. All right, well, I'm gonna move on to the Patreon mailbag segment. This episode might get cut short. I don't know what's going on with Taylor's internet, but we thought we were free and clear here, and here we are with all sorts of issues. So, anyway,
Aren't
there's
we
a
good
couple.
now without the video?
No, I mean it's still super laggy. You're like way behind. So,
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
it's like I was last week, except at least we don't have a guest this time. So anyway, Jonathan Gabriel says, I think we can all agree that all the Gates Brothers rockets are the definition of iconic. Also, the Deuces Wild on 2.0 motors was very cool. Yeah, Tom Cohen's Deuces Wild was
Yeah.
one of the craziest things I've ever seen in person, and that's barring the fact that when we saw it, it didn't work. Just like
Yeah.
the scale of that rocket and the audacity to put two canted 6-inch O motors in a rocket that weighs 500 pounds is the craziest thing. So I was bummed to see it not work. The clip from the year before when it did work, I can only imagine how gnarly that must have been. Like when you really got to sit there and absorb the motors and not try to block out the fact that there's a 500-pound rocket flying incorrectly in front of you. All right. Josh Sickles says, obviously anything Joe Barnard has been fun to watch, especially the hot Glocket, right, Shane?
Yeah.
That's a little out of the normal NAR and TRA operations. Bob Brown's upscale Gemini DC has been another of my favorites. Yeah, shout out to Bob and shout out to the big giant Gemini DC that we talked about during the upscale episode. So I didn't bring it up again. I know a larger one exists, but I've never seen it fly. Yeah, that thing was crazy. It was M1939 and a bunch of M1315s, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, this one I have to ask you about, Taylor. Is Bryson Nicole comment Carpe Diem? What is that? I know the name.
Oh man. Yeah. Man, I can't think of what that is.
I can't either, but he has Quake listed, Derek DeVille's Carmack Prize attempt, the 8-inch Q motor. That was a crazy cool project, especially for the time that it happened. Porthos 2 seems a little biased coming from Bryce, if you ask me, but 4 Carbien, yeah, a classic. The Jim Jarvis 2-stage, the first person I believe to put commercial motors over 100,000 feet. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But definitely one of the earliest, if not the first. The N5800 to N1100 flight, I believe. Full scale V2 makes an appearance on Bryce's list as well.
Nice.
24-inch Big Daddy from the Rocketry forum, and I'm not sure if the one he's talking about is the one that never got finished. It was a guy, I think his name was Brian. He was out of Oregon. He did his level 3 on like an all carbon fiber upscale of a binder designed Velociraptor on an N. And he was a doctor of some kind, but he in the midst. What, Taylor?
Well, that I was just gonna say that does remind me of the giant Big Daddy that did fly multiple times from those guys in Florida. I can't think of his
Maybe
name.
that's what he's talking about.
Something Waters.
Yeah, well,
I think
I'll
it was
have to look it up.
24-inch.
I
want
tried
to say Roger
Google it.
Waters, but that's not right.
I don't think that's it. No, yeah. Because this dude Brian, the guy from Oregon, I pretty sure, if I remember this correctly, committed suicide before he finished that rocket, which is crazy. So, yeah, take a moment here to say, check on your friends. And what's the suicide hotline's new number?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a long number anymore. To shout out Logic for trying to pound it into our minds, but it never worked. Anyway, back to lighter things. Bryce continues CSXT, of course, civilian space exploration team. The entire team of people that put a rocket into space as civilians for the first time. And finally, one of my favorites too, which I believe I brought up on the upscale episode, the Talon on the P motor LDRS-29. It burns when I pee. One of my favorite named rockets on the planet. Oh man, that thing was sick.
Rick Waters. And it was only 18 inches, but it was sick.
Only 18. Why even bother? You know, if you're gonna go that small. Emma Humphrey says Bryce is Sasquatch. There you go, Bryce. You made the list of iconic projects. That thing honestly is pretty iconic.
I was thinking about that when we were like halfway through the podcast.
A rocket that big flying twice in 1 year at any sort of propulsion level is crazy, but he did it on an N and then an O. And then the legendary, definitely not a P, CTI 08000 brought it to an end at LDRS.
Yep.
But there's talks of him bringing it back. And for those who aren't aware, who weren't there for the OG upscale squat, he did his level 3 on a 20-inch one. So technically, the 24-inch one was an upscale of an upscale. And it went way, way higher than his level 3 one did. She continues Xyla's Spite and Fifi. The latter got me back into rocketry. I want to see Spite fly on a gnarly motor. Because I believe she flew it. Yeah,
it was a Sparky.
It was the 6XL one. So it's still pretty gnarly, but it's pretty well built. I'm like, ooh, you could put something disgusting in that. I bet it would go crazy hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really well done. Like her like composite layups and stuff. And is Fifi the wood rocket? That thing is crazy.
I think so.
I couldn't remember for sure.
Wanted to make a wood rocket.
Have you seen that video of hers?
No.
It's like super thin wood veneer around the tube that she fiberglassed over and like finished. Like it's like serious woodworking stuff in rocket format. It's so sick.
I wanted to make a really like grotesque, like it's all wood.
Oh well.
Oh no.
You're like, no, I'm not talking craftsmanship. I wanted a flying 4x4 with a traffic cone on top of it.
I want a fence.
Well, not
post
quite
with
like
fins.
that, but if I just took like some like 1x material and planed it down and made it I could just make a square rocket, you know, with square couplers.
What's the name of that company that makes the square kits?
Yeah, it would be like
New
that.
Age? Something like that. Something Age Rocketry. Oh, Nigel the Rocket Cat's here.
Hear him, but we don't see him.
He's telling you to go get your Nigel merch.
Oh, true. Rocketvlogs.square.site or rocketvlogs.com. Lawrence Geagle, says Stevie Saturn V. I was there. It was a single rocket launch rather than one of our typical larger launches. Yet 100 or so people and some press came out to see it. It was a world record at the time. Also celebrated the 40th anniversary of Apollo 11. Yeah, of course. Like the Stevie Saturn V is a staple of both scale and just high power rocketry in general. Also, the O Deuces Wild is always a show. I saw it twice, one successful and one not so much. Yep, we were there for the latter. UPS Rocketman says, the Sasquatch is the only big project I've been able to see fly. I fell out of the hobby right before all the big rocket stuff started in the early 2000s. I feel like I missed the heyday of big rocket projects. You guys are what brought me back with the Mega Punisher and the Double Arcus. I'm glad to see some big rockets flying again. Well, shout out to UPS Rocketman for making us feel important. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that you missed the golden era of giant rockets, but you kind of did. However, there seems to be a resurgence, and we're here for it. Um, we missed the big rockets a lot, which is why we built the 12-inch Punisher. And Tim was still flying the big Dark Star. There was still some big stuff flying here and there, but we're really hoping a lot of people will start getting back into this and grabbing a big group of friends and building giant stuff. I know Bryce up in Washington, they've been kind of routinely building huge rocket projects lately, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, so grab your friends, build a giant rocket, and bring it to LDRS next year at TCC. Finally, Brian Kelsey. Oh, good, Taylor.
Well, I was going to say, if you bring it to LDRS, build a giant rocket that is a complex in or smaller, because that's the limit.
Yeah, but I mean, the double Arcus was a complex N.
Yeah,
you can go pretty hard.
It's true.
I mean, an N and 8 more motors still being N is still a pretty insane concept. So,
yeah, and that was totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
So sick though.
I'm kind of curious what it would be like on just an N2000. Because in my head, the outboards didn't make a difference, but I think they did.
Well,
because it went really fast.
Yeah, fast enough to rip the nose cone off. But I don't know. I'm curious about how it would go on a single N2000 as well, but I don't really want to do single motor flights except for the one that we have planned.
Fast forward to 2025. We decided to do another 9-motor flight.
Dude, Postart's all in on it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I don't even know. Maybe if somebody pitches us a good enough 9-motor cluster, we can pull it out. It's worth remembering, though.
Burns in the 54s.
Me too. Yeah, I was gonna say, and we don't really have a way to air start with that rocket without like cutting a hatch in it or anything.
We just sacrificed 2 of the outboards and we put timer pods in them.
Oh yeah, we could do that. We've talked about that before, but that wouldn't do, the 9-motor cluster. But I guess if you're still listening to this, pitch us some double Arcus flights. Keep in mind that it has a single wrap of fiberglass, and we pulled way back on the motors we had planned on flying in it because we are certain it would have died. It almost did anyway. So,
but
what were we going to do
once we get
originally?
2 flights under it, we'll be ready to kill it. So.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it might survive.
We were going to do J350s and K550s originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think we talked about K700s briefly, which undoubtedly would have folded that thing in half. Do you remember when we were going to fly it on 2 ends?
Remember when we bought 2 ends to do that?
Remember when we thought that was a good plan?
Yeah, that was crazy. Who would do that?
Yeah, we're pretty dumb, dude. Rolling deep enough to buy a spare N2000 is the craziest thing we've ever done, probably.
Yeah.
Obviously, we should have went with 4 M1315s. That's
way more reasonable, of course. Honestly, would have made way more sense than trying to do 2 98s. Remember how we were all excited about it? We would tell people, and everyone's like, "That's stupid. Why?"
Literally, not one person backed us up on that. Rightfully so, because it was a horrible idea.
It sure was. All right, well, let's read this last question or this last comment from Brian Kelsey. Says, "Quake and Mesos, the big rocket that Ricky Rocket launched back in the 90s. The grainy videos on YouTube. Another one I saw was these guys in Poland that had a 2 or 3 stage that went to maybe 90K. I'm not sure about the 90K people, but we touched on the others. But yeah, Mesos, of course, Kip Daugerdis in his 293,000-foot flight. And if you missed it, Kip was just on our podcast last week. So if you haven't gone and listened to the episode, it's really insightful for anybody that's looking to do high performance rocket stuff. And I will say, Kip's a pretty humble guy. He made it sound like dumb easy to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't really trying to imply that it is, but he has done so much prep work and so much stuff to get to the point. He just kind of like, he doesn't like want to brag about the stuff that he did. And it's like,
He's like, it's
he's like,
just
yeah,
a
I just did
rocket.
this because it was easy. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really helpful info in there from him about, you know, planning for this kind of stuff, and just some really cool insight for anybody that wants to do 2-stage, really high altitude, stuff like that.
It is inspiring though, because it does feel like it's attainable, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna find out real fast in, you know, a couple months here.
I think building a nice short rocket definitely gives you a better shot. Everyone's 2-stagers are too long.
Dude, I know
something I've gathered. They're all wiggly.
a person that should remain or shall remain unnamed for the sake of not putting them on blast, that I am friends with, was originally going to fly this minimum diameter rocket on an 05500. He ended up getting rid of the motor, and then he's like, I'm going to try and find a 6XL case. And I was like, at this point, it's so hard to get a hold of reloads, and Aerotech is like developing motors for the 2480 case. That's probably a better call, especially because I'm pretty sure the propellant length is exactly the same. So something tells me that you could probably cross-load CTI loads in that case. I'm sure it wouldn't be certified, but looking at the drawings, it looks like it would work. But he's like, I was like, well, you got to not do it long. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do it super long, but I'm going to put a payload bay on it. And I was like, no, see, that's too long. And it's got like custom wound, like stupid thick walls so that it doesn't fold in half. But I'm like, at this point, you're just sacrificing altitude. Like, if you're going to go as hard as to put the longest available motor commercially you could put in there, then you got to not pull back on trying to, you know, make it longer and easier to pack some recovery gear in there.
Well, and it's like when it's that long, your chances of it coning are like so high. You'd be better off just pulling back on the motor a little bit and going for a shorter stack.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll talk him into it. You know, we've got some foundation work done, and actually, Postart designed me a sled for the N1000 rocket that has an integrated onboard camera, and like going from the 75 and 54s to the 98 millimeter electronics bay is Caesar's Palace ballroom, dude. There's so much space in there. It is crazy. So like, there's a camera, GPS, Easy Mini, Blue Raven, and like you could probably fit like 3 more altimeters on there if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. And the 4-inch 6-to-1 nose cone, dude, you can fit so much stuff in there. Oh, it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be so easy. Nothing's going to go wrong for sure. All right. Well, in that case, that's going to be the end of the episode. Don't forget, you can reach out to us at contact@aggpodcast.com, or you can send us a text message. The link in the description on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you're finding all this stuff. Probably not iTunes. Our podcasts on iTunes. I don't know anything about Apple stuff anymore.
No idea.
I sound like I'm 105. Oh, they did it on this iTunes. If you're listening on Music Match Jukebox, please click the link in the description to send us a text message. And you can reach out to us at I438-48673 at CompuServe.net or contact at aggpodcast.com. My name is Braden Carlson. You can find me right here on YouTube at Rocket Vlogs. You can also follow me on Instagram at BigB1011. And please check out my TikTok. It's Braden Carlson 9 or something dumb like that. But if you just look up my name, I don't know. It's a number.
It's 6.
But you go follow me. I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers on TikTok. So bump me up there. We're getting close.
My name is Taylor. You can find me on YouTube at the Rocket Channel. This is funny, Braden.
The audio just like got real bad for us. Nobody's gonna hear it. This is still gonna be in the episode. They'll be like, it sounded fine. What is Rocket talking about? But for us, it was bad.
Yeah, you can find me other places, but I don't know where. You figure it out.
Oh my God! Actually, Postar, you got to break the news of what you started doing with your plug here at the end.
Oh yeah. My name is Shane or Postart. You can find me on YouTube at Postart Propulsions, and I did actually start working on a video. I started building my 5-inch Punisher,
And what is that for?
my level 3.
Yeah, he's doing it. He's finally doing it.
Wait, what are you doing it again?
Hopefully later this month.
Yeah, supposedly.
TCC?
Well, isn't that next weekend, Shane?
No, it's the 22nd,
Ooh.
No, that's a Monday.
21st.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
the third weekend of July.
It's the
Oh
20th.
man.
Oh.
Yeah, well, hopefully that actually comes together and we'll see how it goes. But
It's gonna be hot as
Unless
S in Fresno.
yeah, dude, it's like
Yeah.
114 today up there.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound that fun, to be honest with you. But we'll see.
It's hot here too, though.
Maybe
Now
you'll
the
step in some
ultimate
cow
question.
ass.
Yes,
Maybe your rocket will land in some cow ass. Some
Oh, no.
hot cow ass.
No.
Well, yeah. At any rate, we are the Anti-Gravity Group. This is a disastrous episode of the Anti-Gravity Group podcast. Who knows? Maybe this will never even come out because Taylor's got 15 different tracks now. We thought we were free and clear on the terrible internet, but we're right back to the S we started with. We will see you guys next time. Peace.